remember.
Right?
Yeah, you weren't wandering around. Yeah, look, important time.
Yes, yes.
That's it.
I'm important, you need to kind of look at, right?
Fake it till you make it.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty hefty target.
What are you doing that?
Good, can you do me a favor?
Is this for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if I put these back in with our Star Jordan, and she'll keep track of
Awesome.
this and get it back.
Morning.
Good morning, how are you doing today?
Good morning, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming in on a cold, rainy November day. First item on the agenda will be public comment on agenda items. Do any members of the public want to talk about anything that's on the agenda? Mr. Kissel.
I asked Chairman, can I speak on an item off the agenda real quick?
That would be at the end of the meeting, if you don't mind, Ed. Do you have a timing issue?
Okay, yes, thank you.
No, go ahead. Ed, go ahead if you want to, if you have a timing.
Years ago, I was involved in the MPO for 20-some years, so I got fired, but that's something else. But we worked on the RELCO, the advanced lighting system for emergency vehicles. I believe there's 313 red lights in the county and such, but the new system that PennDOT has put up, the big white lights that are on the intersections, I believe we brought those down to the main intersections. But my concern is there were 2 accidents by the police department on 11th and Sassafras here in the prior months. Now, I don't know if the RELCO, I call it RELCO, but that's the emergency. Jessica was straightening me out on her terminology today. But anyway, I bring it to your attention that the purpose of that was to get anybody from a newborn baby or a person pregnant to a 90-some-year-old person who's in medical problems to have a emergency vehicle get to them in a lot shorter time. And PennDOT went ahead on major intersections to put that light in. But where the problems are that I see, and I'm not connected with it, I have no money in it from the beginning, so it's not, anything in my pocket, but it's the emergency vehicles, the communities that have those lights, they need transmitters in their emergency vehicles, their ambulances, their police cars, so they can react also to an emergency. So that's it. So I thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask $1 million allocation to the communities to do that.
We'll take it under advisement.
Thank you.
Matt, just to follow up on what Mr. Kitzel saying, the county did give an ARPA grant to the Erie County Association of Firefighters to allow them to purchase those transmitters and deploy them out. They have made an effort to reach EMS and fire. And I think what Mr. Kissel's pointing out to me is I need to ask them to make an overture towards police as well. And I will do that on behalf of Kissel.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak on agenda items? Well, then hearing none, we will move on to the minutes of the August 13th, 2025 meeting. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review the minutes. If so, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second? Second, thank you. There's a motion on the table. Does anybody have any corrections or modifications they'd like to propose? And if not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And it's approved. Thank you. Next up is the Transportation Improvement Program. First under that heading is the 2025 to 2028 administrative modifications and informational items. And that is Julia Cornell. Julia, you have the floor.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just had 2 actions I wanted to cover briefly. Or actually a couple more than 2, but anyway. From here, actually the ones that are on the screen, Administrative Action 1 and 2, both of these projects received federal HVRU funds. For Administrative Action number 1, $86,000 in federal HVRU funds were added to the PE phase, and $1,004,000 in HVRU funds were added to the construction phase of MPMS number 113882, which is US 20 Chestnut Street to Cumberland Road in federal fiscal year 2025. And the next action would be Administrative Action number 2, which was also adding HVRU funds, $454,816 and $682,379 in federal HVRU funds were added to the construction phase of MPMS number 99750, which was SR 832 US 20 to Presque Isle State Park in federal fiscal years 2025 and 2026. And then I did just want to briefly highlight the informational items, if you can scroll down to those. I think keep going, yeah. Yeah, this is it. So these were two actions that were completed due to August redistribution, which I think I have shared with the TAC and coordinating committee before, but just as a brief reminder, it's a process where FHWA reassigns obligation limitation to ensure it's utilized before the end of the federal fiscal year to states that request more of this. And Pennsylvania always does. So this is basically us receiving that. It's not additional funding, but it's the ability to obligate funding that we've already received through legislation like the IIJA. So the total project funding remains the same, only the year of the program funding was adjusted. So for the first action, federal STP funding was advanced to 2025 of the SR 832 US 20 to Presque Isle State Park project. And then in the second action, federal spike CRP funding was advanced to federal fiscal year 2025 of the Central Bayfront Parkway multimodal project. So I just wanted to cover that briefly, but those were all the actions I had to highlight. If anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions for Julia? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next up is the front project discussion. I'm not sure who was gonna handle that. Okay.
So we are asking for a vote on a Bayfront increase. I don't know if you guys have the PMC item with the FC chart that is there. As you guys know, we've been talking about for the last few months that we ran into issues when we were trying to do the boring with the utility work down at the Bayfront project. Because of those boring issues, they had to redesign the utility work that needed to be done. The project fell behind schedule. And as a part of that, they developed the proposal where we have the roadway actually closed, which is going to help us catch up on time and is actually going to save us money in the long run. As with any large project that we have, which this is the most unique one that we in the district have ever done, there are going to be periods of time where costs are going to go up. And right now we are in a situation where we need to pay out additional costs because of the closure and because of the work that we've incorporated with utility changes. That was not part of what the original contract was. However, we're not entirely sure what the final amount of money that we're going to need is. I say that because we're hoping when it's all said and done, we actually will not need the entirety of this increase that we are asking for today. We're hoping that by the time the project is done, we will have seen savings in other areas because of what we are doing today. That will allow us to return funds into the TIF that we are taking away. Our request originally, when we started working on this, was to ask for $15 million. That's what the payments out are that we don't currently have in the contract. When we started working on the write-up and we submitted our request for the $15 million, central office and the staff down at Center for Program Development were worried about the Erie TIF taking that much of a hit. So they have given us $10 million of the $15 million to cover that part of the project. And they've given us bridge funding in order to help with the intersection work. So we're coming today asking for a vote. It would be a vote for $15 million increase to the project. However, only $5 million of it will be coming from the Erie Regional TIF and $10 million of it will be coming from statewide section. The $5 million is broke down. We're asking for a little over $2 million of NHP funds. That would be the federal funds from the Erie TIF. And then $3 million of it would be state 581 funds also coming from the Erie Regional TIF. I'm also going to be talking up next, so I'm going to just kind of go back and forth. You will not see any changes. The proposal that we have and the vote that we're doing today does not show any delays on any projects on the current tip. So the 25 tip, we're not showing any of that. We have done it so that it would be in the outer years of the Bayfront project. And you're not going to see any projects that we have letting in the next year, 2 years, seeing any delays in that as a part of it. What we have done is we went back and looked at the 27 draft tip, which is in everyone's packets. And if you look at the roadway projects on that one, the document that says that if it's highlighted in blue, down below, that project has been delayed. Go ahead and keep scrolling down, Ally, that one of these bridges. So when you go on, that's the bridges, and then you'll go down. Yep. So right there, you can see that blue line. That's a project that is out further than it was when we presented the draft 27 tip at the last meeting. Those delays that we did, we were able to kind of move things around enough that most of them, in fact, I think all but maybe one or two are a one year construction delay. That may not even affect the construction season, meaning that we might be able to let that such that it would continue to go the same year that would have been proposed. We just moved the funding around in order to allow us the $5 million increase on the Bayfront project. I'm gonna pause now for questions. Because I don't want to get into too much, but I want to make sure you guys have any of the questions you have answered.
Yeah, going back to the bridges, did those bridge bundle get delayed, the group bridges that we're gonna try to do? The
Local bridges,
composite deck, yeah,
the local bridges, no. So if you look at the bridge tip, the local bridge line item is still there. And we can talk in depth a little bit more. I don't know if we're talking about the local UTV, but we can talk about local bridges then if you wanted to and what we talked about. But yes, they're not gonna be delayed.
so,
Because of the Bayfront app. No local line item is delayed because of that.
okay. These blue ones on the other sheet, those are the ones that are delayed.
Yeah,
Those
and
like, says like 19, US 19 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah, and, so some of the bridges did get moved around. I did not mark up that document because most times I don't get asked about when a particular bridge is going to go. Most of the time, that is not the things that, the committees that we work with care necessarily about. We can talk about any specific bridge that somebody may have a question about. Most of the time, what everyone is more concerned about is when a roadway is going to get paved or a project is going to happen. The projects that we delayed are projects that, to be honest, may have seen a delay anyways, because just when you're going through the design process, there are a lot of times that we move things forward and backward based on something that might happen during the design process, funding that changes with other projects. It's not uncommon for things like this to happen. But to just bring it out so that everyone knew exactly what we were proposing, we highlighted it on here, so that moving forward, everyone was okay with where things would be delayed to. And like I said, most of it may be a construction season. It may not even be a construction season delay when it's all said and done, because a lot of times we can do it with funding where we let things later in a year and still are able then to see it go that following year. Into construction. So this is just where the money is at. Other questions?
Other questions for Courtney?
So currently the process that we're at, or where we're at in this process is we have submitted, the request for the PMC, approval. That means that it has to go in front of the secretary and a committee of folks in the central office. They have to approve the increase because an increase of this magnitude or change in scope of any significance needs to go before them. Their meeting is actually this afternoon. I'm going to be attending that, talk about this, to ask for their approval in it. We asked because we have this meeting today and currently running through both instead of waiting for the PMC approval, which is the normal process. So that way then we could get this out, you guys could look at it, and then we could ask for it to go as an e-ballot instead of waiting until the December meeting, to go before, the other committee. So what we're asking for, it would be a vote, it's a vote for a max change increase of $10 million and an increase of project funding of $15 million. And Ally does have the write-up, if anybody would like it emailed, I don't know if it went out. I think Sarah had emailed it to you, a week or so ago. It wasn't in the packet, but if anyone wants to see it, we can get it out as well.
And so today's vote of the TAC would be to recommend that the coordinating committee
Yeah.
approve this change. And then Ally, you would send out an e-ballot to the coordinating committee, as long as Chairman May is okay with that.
Yeah.
Could you include that information then with?
Yeah,
the
I was not
e-ballot?
aware, anything that was sent was in the packet, so I'll make sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Are there any other questions then on this, change or what the vote is for? Would be a recommending vote for the coordinating committee? If not, I would then accept a motion to recommend this, if anybody would like that motion. Brian, do I have a second? Second, Leanne. There's a motion on the floor to recommend the approval of this to the coordinating committee. Any discussion before we take the vote? All right, hearing none, then, take the vote. All in favor of recommending this to the work coordinating committee, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Been recommended. Courtney, do we want to go into the?
So, we have attached the most current, up-to-date, post-vote, copy of what the draft 2027 PIP would be. I have actually not gotten any questions through the MPO on any of the projects that were proposed at, the last set of meetings. None of the projects, none have really been added or taken off that were on here before. Some of the timing and funding has just gotten moved around a little bit based on things that have been going on. The one change besides what will be taking place after the vote is the fact that we have added one of the 7 projects that was submitted through the MPO for project consideration through the municipalities. We were lucky enough, we had talked to you before, that we'd gotten 7 through the municipalities for consideration. Some of them were ones that needed to go through the communities in order to get studies done. Some needed to be put on the long-range plan before they could be considered to be TIP projects, and some might be incorporated in future projects. But we had 2 that came out of that submission that we sat down, talked through, and we are proposing adding 1. So the 2 projects, one was the Fairview intersection project. Fairview has gone ahead, they've done the study through MPO funding. They had got the votes added to the LRTP to propose doing some intersection work there by the school. The second submission that had been submitted was through Mill Creek Township. It was also done through a study. The township had done what had been promoted through the study to be done by making some of the roads one-way in the area. And it is also on the LRTP, and it's for the intersection of 97, 505, Glenwood, and list about 7 other roads that all come into that intersection right there, for a project to take place there. Because that project had been on the LRTP longer, we decided to propose moving that one forward. And we added it, it's on the last page of, it goes on page 2 of that document that you're in right now, Ally, for 505. Design we are proposing would be starting in 2030 with construction in 2033, I believe is what I have it out there right now. And as we move through that, next update, we'll be asking for additional submissions. And we will be considering adding more projects as we move through the ones that the one we added this time. So I just wanted to let everyone know that's on there. And that is really the very large change here, besides the big project. Did anyone have any questions on what I had sent out before, that maybe you hadn't brought up or had sent to me, or any questions on what was sent out for the meeting today?
I mean, the only other change on this draft tip is the, we made a note, but I don't know how to change it in this, that says East 38 and Liberty, which is the intersection in the city that's been studied, that's been on the tip, but it's West 38 and Liberty, and I don't know how to make that official. No, it says east, it's going to be west.
Okay, I will just make
Yeah.
that change. It's me that needs to make it, so
Okay.
I will write it down.
It's,
Yeah,
Halfway down the page, it just says.
yeah,
East 38.
no, that's the HDIP project that we have that, HDIP funding for, so yeah, not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next steps, we don't need a vote or anything, in order for this to move forward through either committee. We just basically want to make sure everyone's on board, no one has any issues with the projects that we're putting forward. We'll talk about it today, we'll talk about it today, we'll talk about it at the December meeting, and then, as long as, no one voices any sort of objections or anything that would make it that we would need to possibly have a vote just to make sure everyone's okay, we'll keep it moving forward. Meaning that, the tip as proposed, would be attached in MPMS. It actually is attached as proposed to MPMS now. January, that locks down, and then it goes to where central office and FHWA start doing their reviews, and then we go to public comment, after air quality and everything that central office does for their approval. And then we'll go to public comment next spring, and it would be voted on next June to go into effect in October. So that's where we're kind of at, and don't have to listen to me anymore unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Courtney then on the draft tip? All right, thank you very much for all your work. And just trying to figure out a meeting issue.
What's the chat? It's not variable.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, right, yeah. Okay, all right, then I guess we will move on to the next agenda topic, which is subcommittees. First up is the local use fee. Matt Jonas, you have a report on that?
Yes, thank you. Our last meeting was on October 22nd, and for the most part, the bridges are still progressing. There's no real update there. Every kind of status quo on construction and engineering and how they're going. The one thing that I would like to bring to the attention of the TAC is in 2025, the cash flow, originally Donation Road was $125,000 less than what's showing on there. So what's up there now, the 260, 156, that's the correct amount. It was increased 125,000. Apparently that had been previously approved, but it hadn't been added onto the cash flow diagram. And by doing that in 2027, we actually have a little bit of a deficit. We have a $16,949 deficit for 2027. But based on how things have been progressing through the construction and engineering of the bridges, there's typically some go faster than others. Not too concerned about a $16,000 deficit 2 years from now. A lot can change in that amount of time, so we'll continue to monitor it. But overall, everything's progressing. There was no additional poor condition bridges brought up, so we're still working on the list that we have. And our next meeting will be on January 21st of 2026.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions for Matt on the local use fee?
There was brought up, we had talked about at the local use fee meeting about the local bridge bundle. And, I talked to Ken Sinofsky with the bridge team after they would be willing to consider to design it in-house instead of going out to consultants. Simply because of the type of project, the cost associated with the consultant designing it versus in-house. So they're considering doing it as, we had the last group of local bridges that we had done, in Erie. Do you want to vote do you want me to get an FC chart ready so that we can propose a vote to start design on that as soon as everything is okay? And start the process, or do you want to wait and start it, or, later? How would you guys like to do that?
I don't see why we wouldn't start. I think we had an email correspondence from Ken saying there was some potential capacity issues with being able to design in house, so I don't
Yes,
know.
but
where
they're
that-
trying to figure out a way to have that happen.
Okay,
So, if it works better for you guys, can get a final word, we can send you guys an email, then we can ask we need a vote to add it to the tip that's federal funds. From the line item. So if that would work with the committee, then that's what we would do. We'll get final word and get it to you, so we can send it out for a vote.
okay.
Do you need anything from the TAC for that, or that could go right to the coordinating committee?
I think you can go accordingly. It's from a line item, so officially, I think the bylaws are written in such that, we wouldn't have to have a vote, but I just think that it would make sense to have the vote, but we do it accordingly.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll make a note for quarterly.
All right. Next up then, if there's no other, are there any other questions? That's time. Next up is the MPO bylaws, and that is me. Everybody recalls that at our last meeting, we brought forth a set of draft bylaws and a change to the membership. After discussion of the committee, the vote was tabled and the recommendation was made to go back to the drawing board and talk a little bit more about them. Two issues that were raised. One was getting solicitor review of the bylaws, just to make sure that everything was, was proper as far as legalities in the bylaws. And then the second was to go back and look at the membership. The proposed membership changes weren't very popular with everybody, and so we went back to the drawing board to look at that. And we did put out a call for additional subcommittee members, and I would like to thank specifically Ron Bowl, Anna Franz, Marcus Jacobs, and Jason Sayers, who joined to try and help us iron it out, but also, recognize Leanne and Mike Baker from Quarry and then Brandon Leach from PennDOT, who have been there since the beginning. We tried to work on a way that we could, figure out the impasse and come up with a compromise. Starting back with the things that were less controversial, just going over the text changes. Right now, there are no term limits for officers. The bylaws would have a term limit of 5 consecutive years for any officer, and then they could be reappointed after a 1-year absence. Bylaw review, currently there is no mandated bylaw review. We are proposing a 5-year minimum review or as necessary based on changes. That's because there were, instances where regulations have changed, our guidance from federal highways has changed. We have a public participation plan that wasn't really referenced. Things like that, as those come up, we felt it was necessary to look at the bylaws and make sure that they comport with any new regulations or policies of the committee. And then next is representative attendance. Right now, all that happens is if there's a municipality that's a member of it, has a seat on any of the committees, if their representative doesn't attend for 1 year's worth of meetings right now is when that municipality is contacted. The proposed change, if any representative misses half of the meetings in a year or more, then we contact that municipality to let them know, just to make sure that they're aware that their representation isn't active and to see if they need to make a change there. Moving on to the membership, as you recall, hopefully everybody does, we went over at the last meeting how many different ways we tried to slice up the membership to, be as fair as, what we felt was fair, to try and come to a data-driven decision, to potentially, change the makeup of the board. After a lot of discussion and doing a lot of research, I have to recognize Brandon Leach at PennDOT did a lot of research into MPOs across the state, similar size of us. as well as the research that Ally and Jessica did. There really is not any rhyme or reason as to how MPOs choose their membership. People all have all kinds of different methods. Some are much smaller than ours. Actually, quite a few are much smaller than ours at 23 voting members. And so we felt like, although we still believe that, having some sort of data driven makes sense, really the way we did it is not wrong. And we felt like maybe we need to just keep things pretty much status quo. We felt like greatly changing the membership just wasn't a fit. Obviously, we had a lot of people push back on that idea. And so you'll see the one change that we proposed, but other than that, we've decided to keep the membership where it is at 23 votes. Keep our quorum threshold at 51%, and then do not specify the role of the voting member in the organization. Any organization that gets a vote can appoint anyone that they want to the committee. So moving on to the current membership, you see it here on the screen, 23 votes for the coordinating committee, 18 votes for the technical advisory committee. That is how it exists today. If you want to do the next slide, the proposal for the coordinating committee. One of the things that came out in all our discussions was that Erie County was really looking for an additional vote. And trying to figure out how to do that that was the challenge. And we came up with many different ways to slice and dice this. But I did have a conversation, and I believe he's on the line now, with Derek Martin from the Airport Authority. We had conversations internally before reaching out to Derek that the airport, although they're a valued partner with us, their transportation funds don't come from this committee. They get transportation funds from federal aviation and from the federal government. And so we had a conversation with Derek, and Derek said he would be willing to give up his seat on the coordinating committee for Erie County. And Derek, if you wouldn't mind chiming in here and just confirming that that's the case for us, please. Derek, if you're available. Well, hopefully he can chime in, but you'll have to take my word for it. I did have that conversation with Derek, and he did indicate that. And so that is our proposal. The only change to the membership is removing the airport authority and adding one to the county. Just a little personal editorial. I have some concerns with that. I do feel like the airport is valuable. Their input on transportation matters. But it was Derek's, Derek said that this was fine with him, and we felt like this was the best compromise to get us to where we needed to be to move forward on this.
Go one more slide on. Put on more slides so Matt can speak to the non-voting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you. What we did though, then, we did change the makeup of the non-voting members of the coordinating committee. There are some such as FAA, the PADEP, U.S. Housing and Urban Development that are technically by bylaws non-voting members of the coordinating committee. In any of our memory, we can't remember any of those organizations ever taking part in any of our meetings. So we did remove those, but we added, you can see here, the Erie Regional Airport Authority as a non-voting member, so they would still have full rights other than a vote in the coordinating committee to speak and talk on any issues. And then there's also the member emeritus. If hopefully everybody recalls, there is a provision in the current bylaws for a chair emeritus, for a past chairman. There were some different odd regulations around that, which included giving that person a vote in the absence of the chair and vice chair. We felt that wasn't really proper to have someone that's not a part of the committee have a vote. And so we just changed the wording of that to a member emeritus. The person is still able to come to the meetings, talk, give their opinions. We welcome that. But we kind of changed it a little bit so that, that their vote isn't counted in the absence under certain conditions. The other thing we did, the last bylaws had chair emeritus in there for, basically for life. And we just added in a vote to continue to appoint those people and allow us to have additionals if we feel like that's necessary. And can you go back for a second? Ellie? Yep, here. And then additionally, the only other membership change we did was add the Erie Area Council of Governments, the Technical Advisory Committee. Currently, there is an even number of votes on the Technical Advisory Committee. I don't know that that's ever been an issue, but it could as far as votes. Also, Jessica, and you can speak to it if you want, but there found a need necessarily, or need, I think, for the COG to be a member following the big snowstorms last year. Was that?
Yeah, the, part of the idea to make some changes was to make sure other municipalities were having a voice at the table that don't have votes. So the COG will provide that opportunity to add, voice for municipalities that don't have a current vote. And the COG was involved, along with, you'll see in your non-voting membership, in addition of Erie County Emergency Management, because some of the things that we've learned in terms of the impact of the storm on our roads and even our ramp gates and things like that, some of that came about from the coordination between the municipalities, moving snow, EMA, COG, and all those getting involved and seeing what was happening on the street. So we thought they ought to have a role here as well.
Thank you. That's right. Yeah. And again, here is the non-voting membership for the TAC, HUD and FAA and those others. We did take off the list. Erie Parking Authority was already there. Erie County Emergency Management and member emeritus or members there now. So is there anything else that you think we should cover?
Everybody has the current clean version of the bylaws in your packet, the one we're talking about today. So when Matt's highlighting some of the recent changes, but this committee has been meeting since last December of a year. So this is the messy version. You don't want it with all the red and all the changes. So the committee has virtually rewritten the bylaws of this organization to reflect what this group is doing today. A lot of this was out of date language that didn't really reflect what we're doing. And so we have shared these with you over email over time, and we're happy to share those other changes. If any questions, anything, but we tried to really make it reflective of what the goals and purpose of this organization is today. And the county, the request for the county additional votes probably should have came when we passed Act 89, local $5 local use fee. The county's contributing $1.2 million every year to local bridges that we don't own, but we've only ever had one vote to help to assign those funds. And we thought it was appropriate as one of the bodies that's funding the activities that would have more than one vote to say how those funds are allocated.
And I would like to point out, I think I touched on it for a second, the county solicitor did review the bylaws, did make a few changes, just to make sure that everything was good, but nothing major. And those are all reflected in previous drafts that you've sent recently in this final proposal here. All right, that was a lot. Any discussion or questions? Do you have any questions before we go on to discussion?
Well, first of all, I think you all did a great job and you incorporated the concerns that were raised last meeting on membership, et cetera. I do want to look at this section 10 or Article 10, section 4 about the emeritus. In my mind, emeritus is an enduring designation. It's not something that you should be up for every year. That kind of defeats the whole purpose. So I would offer a friendly amendment just to remove the yellow piece about voting on it annually. I don't think that's necessary.
And so Dave, that's why I was highlighted in yellow, because we had a meeting and we talked about that and we weren't entirely certain that that was a necessary comment, so I highlighted it for discussion.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank the committee for the work they did. It's tremendous. and you landed in the right places. I'm sorry that I was kind of bugged for about 10 years to get the bylaws reviewed because the changes in the county, and the governments in the county and the population. I think the committee did, to me, 100%. I am an emeritus member, and just on Dave's point, the only thing that I can give is 40 years of experience. I did 20 some years of experience working with the MPO. We don't need a vote, but a lot of times issues come up that need a historical background. And the emeritus members can always, provide some of those highlights. And I am very honored and privileged to have that. I put in a lot of meetings over the years. And from Corey, that's a real trick because we have 70 miles in every meeting. And Tom, I want to give kudos to him because he's been extremely faithful. So I just want to congratulate the committee because of the hard work and the endorsement of the plan.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm just showing Dave what the language was in the prior
Oh.
bylaw, and he wants to recommend it go
Yeah.
back in there.
That's fine. There's no other questions. Dave, maybe would you mind making a motion that incorporates your proposed change?
Sure, I'd like to, friendly amend my motion to revert the wording from the yellow highlighted back to the original. Such a designation shall be for life term or until death, resignation, retirement, or removal for any reason, by the vote of the committee.
So the vote would be to recommend approval of the bylaws with that,
Right.
or the motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a motion on the table. Now there's time for discussion. Any committee members wish to discuss this proposed change? Okay, you don't have to convince me. Hearing no one, I will then call for the vote. Oh, do we see,
Stand up.
yeah. No, maybe not.
Anybody online want to?
Anybody online wanna?
No.
No? Okay, all right, well then, I will then call for the vote, on Dave's motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then the ayes have it. Thank you. We will recommend that to the coordinating committee for their next meeting. Next up is the long-range transportation plan. I'll turn it over to Alexandra.
First off, we would like to thank everyone for participating in both the stakeholder public meetings and the municipality informational packet. We had 4 stakeholder meetings in September that were held at the Summit Township Building, and we had a turnout of about over 55 attendees. And we had 2 public meetings in October that were held at the Booker T. Washington Center, and we had a turnout about over 37 attendees. All the information gathered and topics discussed were given to our consultant, WRA. They are currently working on a draft list, and we will be contacting municipalities soon to kind of relay the information that was gathered at the stakeholder and public meetings. And then a steering committee meeting will be held on December 16th at 10 a.m. at the planning office, and it is hybrids for those who cannot attend in person. WRA will be presenting and discussing the information that was gathered at the meetings. If you're not currently on the steering committee but would like to be, please see myself, Nancy, Jessica, or Jordan.
All right, well, thank you very much. Next section of the agenda is agency updates. First up is PennDOT District 1, and half of Oil City is here, so I'm not sure.
I'll provide a few updates on some of the more significant projects that were from our September newsletter. First on the newsletter was the Quarry Paving Project. That project has been advertised and the bid opening will happen here in 2 weeks, first week in September. Next significant project was the I-79 paving project. That's going to be, the limits of that paving is going to be from just south of the interchange over Edinburgh to just to the north of the interchange with I-90. That's upwards of a $50 million paving project. That also includes some bridge repair work as well, replacing some bridge joints and also minor repair work throughout the structures. Project's currently on schedule. There are going to have to be some environmental commitments that are going to be made for some threatened endangered species of bats. Assuming that the agencies are on board with us for that, that project will be on schedule for construction next year. The other significant project on I-79 are the bridges over the railroad tracks. We just recently finished what's referred to as a value engineering exercise, which required on federal projects over $50 million, where we have an independent engineer do a review of the design team's design to see if there's any cost savings or any innovations that could be implemented to benefit the project. So we're currently looking over those recommendations now, trying to decide which ones will be implemented moving forward. Next projects, this is just an FYI, this was a tip modification with just with the timing of the LEDs, but it's the Route 5 bridge over 6 Mile Creek and the Wattsburg Bridge on Route 8 just on the south end of town. We flipped those let dates, moved the Route 5 bridge up. It'll be let in the summer of 26. The Route 8 bridge in Wattsburg will be let later in the fall of 26. That won't cause any delays over the construction of either of those bridges. They'll both occur following year in 2027. So it's just it worked out better for the funding on those bridges to make that switch. The next project is the addition of the center turn lane on Peach Street from Jordan to Robinson. We recently finished up the public involvement for that project. Got a few comments on that. We're hoping to wrap up the NEPA process later this year, first part of next year. That will move us in final design and right-of-way acquisitions sometime after the start of 2026. That project's still planning to let, I believe, in 2027. We'll probably start construction in 27. I'm not exactly sure when it'll be done in 27 or 28, and then more as we get into final design. Just an update on the old 99 bridges. I think we've talked before. There were some delays this year due to some utilities, but we have a recovery schedule that's been reviewed by our construction unit from the contractor. All 3 bridges. The structural work has been completed, and they're planning on doing the approach paving work at the end of next week, weather permitting. And currently, their schedule is showing that the roads will be open to traffic for all 3 structures on December 5th. The only remaining work that they would have to come back to do next year would just to be some off-road work, like some seeding and mulching and maybe some fine grading. Be the only thing they would have to come back for. Last thing worth noting is we'll be updating that September newsletter for our December meeting. Just a heads up on that one project that you'll expect to see added on there that I don't think we have yet is the Hershey Road project. That's going to involve the paving, resurfacing of Hershey, I believe, from Grub to Peach. Along with the replacement of the Hershey Road Bridge over 79. We're just now getting started on the consultant selection to get that project moving. But we'll be adding that to the newsletter with some more information with that next month. So, questions?
I just have a quick one. The word has gotten out about the railroad bridges over 79. Getting questions. Do you know at this point, are any closures planned, or are they going to maintain traffic during that? Or
No, it's the traffic will be maintained. There's not going to be any closure
Good. Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Mark? Thank you very much. Moving on, anybody else from District One then? No? Okay, sure. Moving on to central office, back to Julia. Julia, do you have any, updates for us?
Hi, yeah, I just have two. So a little NEVI program update. So on August 11th, PennDOT submitted an updated PA NEVI state plan, as well as a second request for full build-out certification on August 27th. And so the state plan was approved on September 5th, and we received full build-out certification on September 22nd. So having received approval, the Shapiro administration is moving forward with the community phase of the NEVI program, beginning with the corridor connections funding opportunity. So this funding opportunity is focusing on implementing EV charging stations along major roadways to strengthen long distance travel outside of previously designated alternative fuel corridors. The submission period for this funding opportunity will close on January 30th, 2026. And I have a link that I'm going to provide Allie after the meeting to send out to everyone with full program details. And then my next short thing is that the 2024 PennDOT highway statistics are available. Pub 600 is updated annually to summarize a variety of highway mileage and travel information in Pennsylvania. And most of the information is derived from the Highway Performance Monitoring System, or HPMS, and it reflects 2024 travel activity and highway conditions. I'm also going to send out the link for this as well as contact information if there's any questions. But that was all I had.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on then to EMTA. Dave, are you?
Yep. We're continuing to transition from diesel buses to CNG. We've got another 5 that will arrive in the new year. One fairly soon, I think. The other thing that I want to share is that we are at a point in our transit development plan with our consultants. This is like public input season, and we screw it up every time because we shouldn't be doing this in the winter. But there right now, our consultants at Rockland Planning are putting together a very specific questionnaire to share with you all, with the MPO, to get your input and to get as wide a variety of inputs from around the county. So I would ask you just to keep an eye out for that. It'll go out to everybody that's listed in the MPO that's got an email address, and we really welcome. It's a stakeholder interview, so you'd be signing up for a 10-minute interview, I believe. They will also be developing just a tool that's a questionnaire you can fill out and then submit. But we really appreciate that, and to turn it around as quickly as you can. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, Matt, first, just for Dave's purpose, during our LRTP public hearing, the stakeholders we did participate, which we appreciate. We have talked to WRA and they've received comments or regarding to transit that we will pass them on to you and your consultant. We'll share that.
Great. Thank you. Next topic is other business and the transportation alternative set aside applications.
Oh, that'll be me.
Oh, that'll be you. Okay.
So Erie County has a total of 8 completed applications that have been submitted to PennDOT. I have the list presented on the screen. The total amount requested for all 8 projects is around $7 million. Currently $19 million is available across the state, and majority of the submitted applications were in regards to sidewalks on schools' campuses or on their safe walk to school. I know Emily's on the call. She has been the one leading the review, so if she wants to say anything else to it, she's more than welcome to.
No, you covered it beautifully, Allie.
And that is it.
Well, thank you very much. Moving on then to hearing of the public. Are there any members of the public that would wish to speak at this time? Yes.
I reserve my time for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. All right. Hearing none then.
Matt,
Oh, yeah.
a comment. I'm going to be working on the transition team, for Christina Vogel, the county executive. And I would just, like you to, if you have concerns or questions as local officials, she has attended an MPO meeting. We have, highlighted that, and we will definitely work on that, in the transition. But if you have any concerns or anything, please feel free to reach out to me during this period. There's an awful lot of work to be done before January. But I am going to be working specifically with local officials and groups like the MPO, in the transition. So any of the local governments, please feel free to call and give me your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. All right then. If there's no other business, anybody, anything for the good of the order? Then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Just remember the next coordinating committee or the next meeting of the MPO's coordinating committee, December 10th in Summit Township. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah.